Now I'm going to kind of, close today with a few of more of my direct lessons from our homesteading journey. My wife and I learning to manage our chickens, our goats, our garden, growing, looking to continue to rehabilitate our little patch of land and add more animals in the future and get our goats pregnant so that our goats can produce milk and we could have our own raw goat milk and living off the land and obviously getting many, many eggs a day, which is very useful in today's climate. So that's safe to say has came with some lessons because we did not start this with any kind of background in any of this. Just 2.5 years ago, I hadn't done pretty much any of the things that I just told you about. About the furthest extent I had gone is knowing where I got certain foods from and knowing that, Bob was my farmer again and that Dave was the guy that I got my milk from. But now going deeper and deeper and enjoying this process and the challenges that come with it too, it's taught us a lot. So I want to just share a couple of those lessons with you. And number one is that there are no perfect solutions, only trade-offs. And this is a lesson from homesteading that applies to life. There are no perfect solutions. Very rarely, if ever, is there actually a perfect solution. There are only trade-offs. And I think the reason a lot of people don't make decisions is because they believe that if they wait long enough, they can find the perfect decision. And it's our kind of blessing and curse of having this mind where we can think about so many different moving parts that we then end up an analysis paralysis, that we just freeze because we're overwhelmed. And I think that the best thing that you can do is understand if you feel like you're waiting to figure it all out, I'll wait and then I'll be ready, that you're never going to feel ready. Ready is a decision and it just needs to be made. And then you need to make it based on the trade-offs that you can live with because you will live with those trade-offs. Try to minimize and damage control, but understand nothing is ever going to be perfect, particularly when you're managing plants and you don't know what you're doing, particularly when you're managing goats and they keep breaking out or jumping the fence or getting on your roof or eating things that they shouldn't. There are no perfect solutions. There are just trade-offs. And that if you acknowledge that and you can move forward, this is where the lessons really come. So the failure that you will have on a journey like this, the failure that we've had where certain things have not grown well or we, because of the trade-offs we didn't anticipate, it didn't go to plan, that failure is feedback. It's not a loss. And I love this reframe of transitioning from a loser's mindset to a learner's mindset. Failure is feedback. It gives you some idea as to what you can do next. And if you bury yourself in the shame and the guilt for being such a mess up and getting it so wrong that you then can't move forward and learn from that, that's only when failure is definitive. If you grow from failure and you take the information and you sit with it and then you pivot and you move again onto the next right best decision with the tools and the knowledge that you've got, understanding that nothing's going to be perfect, then you can really grow through your failures. You can take that feedback, you can use it, and you can turn the loss into a lesson. And this gives you an enormous sense of purpose and meaning and growth and happiness because progress is purpose. And this is one of the things that I think happens to a lot of us when we feel stuck or we feel like we're in a rut or we don't feel particularly happy in life right now. There's a consistent theme. There can be a lot that's going on there, but one of the consistent themes is that usually it's when we're not making progress when we feel like that. This feeling of being stuck is a literal and metaphorical stuckness. We're not actually learning, progressing, iterating, changing, or doing anything that's forcing us to grow. So we need to be making progress. We can only really make progress if we do the thing. We can only do the thing if we acknowledge that we don't know all of the unintended and intended consequences. And we have to be open to surprise and carry an everything is figure outable attitude and energy, that we just make the best decision that we can, and we hope that it goes to plan, and we stay in the kind of humility, if you will, of it might fail, but if it fails, it's feedback. This will allow us to progress. This will give us purpose, and this will give us something that we can keep making energy gaining and not energy draining, because it's work. All of this stuff that I've kind of put on the table today to talk to you about doing is more work. And a lot of people don't want to do more work. They're busy enough. I get it. Like, I'm busy too. But this is the kind of work that is energy gaining, not energy draining. It's not more spreadsheets. It's not more sending emails. It's not that stuff. It's the work that you feel good about, because ultimately it's about what you get to have because of that work. Whether that's, your own backyard chickens putting eggs on your plate in the morning that you and your family can eat, or drinking from your goat milk one day, or harvesting your own cow one day if you're playing at that level, or just adding a little bit of the organic, beyond organic herbs that you grew on your balcony to a dish that you've created, right? That's work, but you put yourself into it, and it's very rewarding and it's very fulfilling. And that, to me, is purpose. And that purpose comes through this progress of growing this. So we've tried a bunch of different things, and some things really hit and landed, and some things didn't hit and land so much, and some things that worked last season didn't work as much this season. And why were our tomatoes better last season than they were this season? Well, they were in this bed, and the compost didn't go into this bed this season because we didn't have enough of it. Or, this tree grew actually, and that tree was stopping the sun coming over, and these plants didn't get as torched this year, and that was actually better for them. So there's constant feedback from nature, and nature really knows, and nature shows. And I think when we start to kind of try to be more in relationship to nature through growing food and tending to animals, we tap into that wisdom, the wisdom of nature that never forces. Nature follows the law of least effort, that you just watch nature. It's not ever trying too hard. The cyclical nature of the seasons just unfold perfectly on time, reliably every year. And it's the cycle of budding and springing and blooming, and then slow decay and death, and it's cyclical all the time. And I think we miss that in our lives a lot of the time, because we never have a chance to go into our solitude and our stillness, and we don't take a seasonal approach, not only to our food, but also to our lives. At certain times, we might want to also let things die and go into the shadows and go into a more restful mode. But our culture tells us that it's all go all the time and do, instead of being a little bit sometimes. Humans sing the do song when I want us to be singing the do song. Do be. You are a human being after all, not just a human doing. So inherently, by growing things in your garden, etc., looking after animals, you are interconnected with nature in a way that you otherwise wouldn't be. And that nature is who you are. You are an extension of that. And that wisdom that you can find by being a little more in tune to a little more of these things that we spoke about today can go a long way in not only improving your health, because these foods are inherently healthier. The things that grow in your local environment, your local ecology, are more matched to what's going on in your local environment. They're more resonant with what you need at that time. If you're getting your meat from the farmer that you know and trust, that isn't spraying his food, and his animals aren't stressed out when he kills them, that's a healthier food for you to be consuming. And also as a more kind of global connection, holistic, mental and emotional and spiritual connection to these things, that this is a more integrative way of being involved with your food, where your food comes from, connecting to your food, honoring your food, really being grateful about it, and understanding that there is a cost to the convenience that we currently have. And it's amazing on one hand, because we can go anywhere in the world, find a grocery store, pick up our favorite cut of meat. But that came from somewhere, and it was life, and that life was taken, and how was it taken, and how did it get here? And I think that these aren't questions that we should drive ourselves mad with every day, but they are questions that we deserve to ask ourselves if we want a better future, if we want to support the kind of practices that are hopeful and inspiring and regenerative. And those are some of my takeaways, I guess. I'm thinking about this from a kind of philosophical lens, and also a practical lens where hopefully you can get your hands in the soil and maybe get yourself a few backyard chickens and get yourself some eggs or grow yourself some stuff and really reconnect to your food, because I think when you connect to your food, you connect back to yourself in a more profound way, and that will lead to radical health. Hello friends, if you enjoyed that clip, then you can watch the entire thing by heading to this link over here, or you can find us wherever you find podcasts by searching Radical Health Radio. If there's value here, please hit that like button, let us know in a comment what your biggest takeaway was, and hit subscribe, support the show as we support you. We'll see you soon.